Good morning everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing really well. Today is such a gloomy, rainy August day. The weather's been quite nice the past few days, but I woke up today with a splitting headache, and when I saw the weather outside I just thought, oh, today's going to be a little bit of a cozy one, and it really helped to go outside. I walked the dog, I got some fresh air, and it always helps to be out in nature. I find it so grounding, and it really always helps with my mental health and just well-being in general. And now I've just made a fresh pot of coffee, and I'm at my desk, and I'm really keen to get a really solid piece of work done today. I have been in school the past couple of days, and in fact yesterday was A-level results day, which was such a mixture of emotions. On the one hand, you're really excited and happy and proud of your students, particularly those that have done quite well and have been successful in getting into the courses that they wanted to get into. But it's also so strange and challenging to deal with those emotions of, you know, seeing the upset and the anxiety and the worry on students' faces who didn't quite get the grades that they wanted or haven't really gotten into the university that they were planning on. So yeah, lots of heartfelt conversations yesterday, lots of important conversations, I guess, and it was so nice to see the students and see some of my colleagues as well. And yeah, and I got a little bit of work done, and so today I thought, let me just finish that piece of work and I'll show you what I've been working on. So I hope that you find all of this helpful and useful, and next week I'm going to go into school to do a little bit of curriculum work. So let me know if you'd like me to film that and show you how I write schemes of work, how I prepare lessons for entire units, not just for myself to use but for other people to use. I'd be more than happy to share that with you. So maybe give this video a thumbs up or post a little comment letting me know if you'd like that. So the plan today is to work on creating a staff handbook for my department. So this was an idea that I had over a year ago, and I thought it would be really helpful to signpost staff to all of the really important documents that we often use as a reference point, something that guides us through some important information, something that has deadlines, policies, etc. Also things to do with the curriculum, and put it all in one document. So then it's not hidden in folders and files. Then people update them because they are electronic versions, and then things get copy pasted and it just becomes a little bit messy. And so I thought, actually, how helpful would it be that on the very first day of the academic year, on the inset day, we normally have a department meeting for staff to get this handbook that has everything ready for the academic year, all of the information, and then they can obviously access the electronic version of that, but then they have it printed and they can keep it in their planners, they can keep it in their classrooms, in their offices, and just use it whenever they need to. So I'm going to talk through the different things I'm going to put into this handbook, and I'm also going to be working on some of the documents that I haven't quite finished. Feel free to go through all of the timestamps and just click on the ones that you think are going to be the most helpful to you. Otherwise, you can just watch the whole video, and I hope you find it inspiring and helpful, and maybe it gives you some ideas of things that you can implement in your own department and team. In this staff handbook, I really want to have a first page that just summarises the team, their experience, their specialism, other roles that they have, mostly because I think it's so nice to see that at a glance, but also for it to be a little bit of a keepsake. It's so rewarding to look back at things and think about, oh, all these people that I used to work with, and have their full names and how the department was set up. But also just to give a little bit of clarity and support to people who are joining the team. I think sometimes it can be a bit daunting to just not know who people are, particularly in my school, as we're such a large school. There's so many names and initials and specialisms, and you share classes with so many different types of people that it can be quite helpful to have that all there in one place. After that first page, what I'd really like to have is things to do with the curriculum. So we have worked really hard on summarising our subject, so science, on a page. So essentially having a subject on a page, and that talks through our intent, what lessons should look like, how do we know that students can be successful and have been successful, and how do we assess them. So it just summarizes everything that we do in our department so that anyone that is joining the team or observing lessons know exactly what type of feedback or things to look out for. It also gives staff a little bit of clarity as to how they should plan their lessons, but also how they should teach their lessons so that students really get an equitable experience. And it's not the case of, oh, I'm taught by so-and-so, so they're so much better. Whereas if I'm taught by a different type of teacher, but it's still the same subject, they don't really do these types of activities or teach this particular thing. So it makes that experience equitable because all staff in the department know exactly what our intent and what our lessons need to look like. After that subject on a page, I would really like to have the feedback policy there, and that's something I'm going to be working on today because the last time I wrote this, which was over a year ago, I haven't really looked at it, and I'm really keen to improve it and just streamline it and make it more accessible, but also just get it right for teachers so then they know what their marking should look like, how they should spread it, how much feedback they need to give to students, and how that could look like. After this feedback policy, I would like to have a homework policy, and we actually use a website called EduCake, which is just an online platform where you can set students quizzes about the curriculum. And so I have just streamlined that entire process. I've trialed so many different things in the department, and I have now written a policy of what that is going to look like, and so I'm just going to slot that in that space. After the homework policy, I am going to have a document that I created yesterday, and it took me a few hours to do, which is our assessment overview, and it has all of the schedules of the assessments, when to post revision lists, when the assessments take place, when the marking is taking place, when the deadlines are for year 7 all the way up to year 13 for all of our 3 sciences, so biology, chemistry and physics. We're then going to potentially have the enrichment calendar. Now this is brand new to our department. We've actually created a new staff role that is someone who is just completely responsible for all of the enrichment opportunities that we can offer our students. So things like trips and competitions and societies and clubs and leadership. So for example, student ambassadors. So I had this vision of creating a little calendar for the whole academic year, but I do wonder if that's going to be ready. So it might be something that I signpost to staff a little bit later rather than have that ready this time for this handbook in particular. And so these are all of the reference documents that staff just need to look through. I'm then going to have the rest of the handbook dedicated to curriculum. So I have created a curriculum overview map that just signposts staff to what topics need to be taught to each year group each half term. And then it also has all of the sequencing for each of those units. So I'm just going to have that printed. Even though it's an electronic version, I think staff will find that quite helpful. We then also worked on some endpoint documents, and this just has a list of all of the learning objectives that our Key Stage 3 students in Year 7, Year 8 and at the end of Year 9 need to have met. So these endpoints give students a really clear idea of what the success criteria is, what's the knowledge and the skills that they need to have had and mastered by the end of each of those academic years. So that informs assessments, but it can really inform planning as well. So I'm going to put those Key Stage 3 endpoints at that point in the handbook. After this, I intend to put all of the scheme of work documents for each of those topics. So then when staff are planning, they can get a little bit of clarity as to what the sequencing within each topic is, what the learning objectives for each of those lessons are, and where the assessment prioritizes what bit of knowledge. After the Key Stage 3 schemes of work and endpoints, I'm then going to put the AQA scheme of work for Key Stage 4 for GCSE, and that's where we are right now as a department. We are creating those and writing those, so that's kind of the work that I'm going to be doing next week to make sure that all of that is ready. And then finally, I want to end the handbook with just some suggested CPD sessions that are taking place this academic year. So any pedagogical training sessions or subject knowledge enhancement sessions, things to, do online, even if it's stuff to do with data, monitoring, feedback. So just want to do a little bit of a search, see what's available at the moment, and then just collate it all on one Word document and put that as the last page of the handbook. I think that will particularly help staff to forward plan anything that they want to do, but also have that as a starting point of a conversation in their line management meetings, and really reevaluate and readdress particular areas that they wanted to get a little bit more professional development in, and then there's something there that they can say, oh, I'm going to sign up to that, I'll do that, and then they can write that in their performance development appraisal plan. Okay, so that is the structure of the handbook in a nutshell. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the assessment overview and schedule document that I created yesterday. I'll talk you through the different sections of that and my rationale, and then we're going to work on the feedback policy. And if I get a bit of time, then I'll work on that last document, which has all those CPD opportunities, and then the handbook should be finished. So this is the assessment overview document for the next academic year. And this first page gives you a week by week breakdown, and it signposts the revision list, the assessments, the marking and parents' evening for each year group for each half term. And so having this as the first page just really helps with forward planning and knowing what are the things you have to do for particular classes that you teach. So there might be some teachers that don't teach any Key Stage 3, so then they just have to focus on, for example, Key Stage 4 or 5, or if there's someone that is very heavy on Key Stage 3, then they can just focus on those. So the way that I've mapped this out is that the revision list is always posted at least 1 week before the assessment takes place, and then I populated where the assessments are taking place by putting in the ones that have to take place because that's what's happening for the entire school. So for example, the end of year exams take place at the end of the academic year, and the mocks for year 13 and for year 11 take place in particular points. And so then that helps me to map out where other assessments should take place, so that in no week are more than 2 assessments taking place, and that no one is having to mark more than 2 or 3 at the maximum each week. So for example, you can see around the 2nd of October that week, if someone teaches year 7, year 10 and year 13, then they are doing marking. But if there is someone that's doing both, all 3 of those year groups, then the year 13 marking could have taken place the week before, so then they can manage their time a little bit better that way. So this gives you a really good overview of how to manage workload and how to make sure that you schedule things appropriately. In terms of then knowing the actual deadlines for when the data is due and when exactly the parents' evening is taking place, I've then put that on the next few pages. So this next page is the termly overview, and I break that down by term 1, 2 and 3, and they are all chronologically placed. So you can see half term 1 will match exactly what I've put on that first page that's been colour coded. So year 7s are doing their assessment date that fortnight, the revision list is taking place then. The deadline therefore for that data is that particular day, but actually on our portal to be reported home, it's on these 2 separate dates, and this signposts exactly what has to be reported home, and then the actual feedback and dirt lesson can take place that week. I really like to standardise when that takes place, so then students aren't pestering teachers who haven't quite had the chance to finish marking just because they heard their friend got the paper back from another teacher. So if all classes get it in the same week, then it avoids those feelings of, oh, I haven't quite worked as quickly as someone else. This then also signposts exactly what the assessment is going to be. So I find this very helpful because then when we're working on putting the revision list together, or if staff need to make sure that they finish a particular topic or unit by that assessment, then they know that they have to do that. So this is then organised by each half term and term, and it just has all of the year groups in that chronological order.
So this has all of the specificity of those deadlines. I then put the final stage of the document as an overview by year group. Like I said before, some teachers might not teach particular year groups, so for them this might be much more helpful. And this has the parents' evening dates mentioned. So this is exactly the same as the termly overview, but it just has it by year group. So you've got all of the year 7 assessments taking place for science this academic year, and then where parents' evening falls. So then you know that for parents' evening, I am going to have those 2 pieces of data. And then it does it for year 8, for year 9, for key stage 4, so year 10, for year 11, and then for A level, so year 12, and for year 13. So this is all of the red pen marking that we do. These are our summative assessments. We have to make sure that we give red pen feedback to all of our students, all of our classes once a term. That's our deep marking, and for A level it's twice a term, so that's why the list is a little bit bigger. And so that's kind of the policy within my school, and then these are the documents that I have created to really streamline that process and make sure that all students are doing the assessments at the same time, that it's all standardised, the marking is then standardised, the feedback is standardised, etc. So that's the assessment overview. Let me know if you've got any questions down below in the comments section. But yeah, I hope you found that useful.